And that's something you do beforehand. I think that the emotion that I specifically pull on when I'm racing in the moment is usually just being fed up with losing to my brother. Because, okay, the reality of the situation is there's only one first place and there's two of us. And you can't win them all. It's just not possible.
Welcome to Brain Stoke. I'm Tom Telford, Preston Niederhauser. We are in Aspire, a network of mental health companies offices today. Thank you, Liza Telford. We appreciate you. And we are stoked about this. We've got the Gibbons brothers, Gabe and Oliver, in studio with us today and excited to dive in. So many questions we have about twins who lay down the watts. So Preston, what do you think? What's our first fire at 'em question?
Well, I think the most important question is, when did your mom stop dressing you alike?
Oh, wow. More like, when did we stop dressing alike?
So it was your choice. You
Oh,
reached a point where you're like, Mom, enough. We can change.
Yeah.
So, wow, I think it was probably going into junior high because our elementary school had a dress code. So we didn't even have to worry about it. You know, we just throw on whatever the dress code was and head to school. I think starting in junior high, we started to kind of look into that because we no longer have a dress code and we can do what we want. And I think that's when we started to branch out a bit.
Oh, I look like him embarrassing and all that.
Yeah.
Oh, these guys are awesome. You know, the Gibbons brothers, obviously twins. We want to hear more about that, get your feedback. But these guys are winning races and they are doing it at the highest level in the state of Utah for Utah High School Cycling League, NICA Utah. And we're looking forward to this, to dive in and really hear more about the twins' life, how you were raised, you know, what the impact that has on performance and what you're trying to achieve. But if you don't mind, go back to the beginning. Tell us how you were raised. Tell us about your family. Give us a little background that way so we have some context as we get into how you guys are so driven and motivated on the bike.
I would say we were always raised together. Always, always, always. I mean, this is probably my earliest memory was me and my brother would have matching trucks. They're like these toy trucks. They got a bed in the back, right? I don't know how big they were. They're the Tonka trucks is the brand I remember. And we would just go out and play with them all the time. And so just constantly, as far back as I can remember, me and Gabe were getting along, hanging out, everything together.
Our toys have gotten a little more expensive since then, but it's the same concept. We still ride around on, machines with wheels on them and have fun. But I think just some background on our family. We are two of four kids in our family. We're the oldest. For those who are wondering, I'm older. And I think we've had a pretty good family life. Just no major issues. It's been pretty smooth sailing. We moved when we were about 5 or 6 years old into the house we're living in now. It's fairly close to trails, luckily. And we went through a lot of sports when we were younger. I think pretty much every ball sport you can imagine, plus, gymnastics and whatever you want to kind of throw in there. We tried out all the sports growing up, and we could never really settle on one. But it did introduce us into a lot of things. Our parents really emphasized the importance of kind of getting into a sport and sticking to it because, as you know, it can help with a certain mindset, and it'll keep you out of a lot of bad things. So that's kind of how we were raised. We were raised in a very sporty family, and nothing's really changed since then. So,
did you find the bike, or did your parents introduce you to the bike?
I actually remember the first time I considered mountain biking as a sport.
Okay.
This was, we had just finished up lacrosse, which I actually thought was pretty fun, but he wasn't so stoked about it. So we're like, okay, we'll just move on. We'll see what's next. And we saw a little video from Danny McCaskill.
Yeah.
And he said, when I started biking, I was about 12 or 13. We're like, oh, we're 12? And so we're like, okay, so maybe we should give this a shot. That's when the Nike discounts were great. So we went in, we got these giants, these hardtail giants that are like the best bike I think I've ever ridden in my life. They were
Something
good
about that
memories.
first bike,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
I mean,
Oh, yeah.
serious.
And that thing, it held up.
Yeah.
I did not treat it good. And that's what we did. We started biking then. Our first season went really good, and we just loved it. We started going out by ourselves, and I think once we started doing it, it really clicked, and that's what we did.
Was your parents interested in making sure that both of you were doing the same thing? Because you just kind of described, hey, he wasn't into lacrosse, and so we moved on. You said we. I mean,
Oh,
that's super interesting that it was like, hey, if he's not in, then I'm out. So tell us a little bit more about that, just how you approached what you were doing together. And was that something your parents emphasized, or was it just something you naturally were like, hey, my buddy's not in and I'm not in it?
I think the example that you just referenced, that was almost an unconscious decision. Regardless, though, it's been congruent for the rest of our lives where we've made decisions. Hey, I want to do this team. I want to do this thing that's in cycling. And it's like, well, this isn't going to be the greatest for me, not for my schedule. And we're like, okay, we're stronger together. We'd rather be doing this together. At first, it was not emphasized by our parents. They have recognized, and us have recognized, the worth of sticking together. And now it is something we consciously focus on, and I think it's better for it.
That's cool. Tell us a little bit about your parents. Are they Utahns? They born and raised here? Give us their background.
So my dad was born in Logan. He stayed in Utah pretty much his entire life. He did serve an LDS mission in Maine, and he loves Maine, but he stayed in Utah most of his life. And my mom is originally from California, and she moved here and has stayed here ever since she married my dad. So,
No, thank goodness, right?
thank goodness. Yeah, I don't know if I could live in California.
No.
Don't tell that to my mom, but Utah's way better.
Whereabouts in California? Was she a Southern California girl? Was she Central?
She grew up in Atascadero, so
Central-ish.
central-ish.
Yeah.
I personally don't know where it is. It's just a small town. I've never really bothered to look, which might be on me, but
Yeah.
she grew up in Atascadero, California.
Cool.
Right quick before we move on, they were both very, very into sports. My mom was soccer. She did very well in her high school soccer. And my dad was a swimmer. So a lot of the endurance aspects for my dad, my grandpa on my mom's side was an endurance runner. 100-mile races all the time. I mean, I can't tell you how many
Wow.
little belt loops and all that stuff that he has from those belt buckles.
So he was an ultramarathon.
He was an ultramarathon
Wow.
guy. Yeah. Awesome runner. So a lot of emphasis on sports, and both of them performed, like I said, very highly. So I wouldn't say they set the bar, but it's definitely more comfortable, I think.
So this past Saturday there was a race, a Nike race for Region 2, which you guys are in. It was up at Manaway. And I was watching the varsity boys race, watching you guys roll through the start finish line 4 times. And it seemed like the way you guys worked together in tandem and the way you rotated on the front, I thought was really interesting and smart. And I've got to think that goes back to early days of your childhood where, I mean, is it true you knew exactly what the other guy was thinking? Would you finish his sentences? Is that real? Does that happen? Or what are the nuances of being twins that you guys know as normal that we wouldn't really understand?
So I'm just going to say it right now. The whole finishing each other's sentences, total myth.
Okay.
Does not happen.
Thank you
Usually.
for clearing that
Usually.
one up.
Usually.
I think we can kind of dial into each other's kind of mental state on the bike and off the bike. If we're having a bad day on the bike, you can kind of tell. Especially in racing, we like to keep tabs on each other, how we're feeling in each lap. This, that, and whatever, make sure we're fueling. But I would say, yeah, we definitely do have a special connection as twins that helps us kind of gauge where each other are at. So it's not necessarily finishing sentences, but I can kind of tell where he is.
Yeah.
Just because I've been around him for virtually every second of my 16 years of living.
Yeah.
So every waking moment of my life, I've been near my brother. So I can kind of tell where he's at and what he needs. And, it's my job as his brother to kind of respond to that and give him what he needs.
Yeah, likewise.
Same.
Mm-hmm.
You said something that I thought was interesting. Sounds like you talk every lap in a race, and you would be strategic and stay together versus move, like separate. You would prefer to ride together versus not.
This past race is a great example.
Okay.
I think it was my third lap, partway through, drew my bottle in a bad spot, and I ran myself off the trail it cost me about 20 seconds over the course of that lap. That was bad for me. He kept coasting on. This was the flat section where you put down a couple of watts and you go a long ways.
Okay.
And so for me to catch back up, very difficult. I can tell you, if I was any other kid, like, I would have just been lost for the rest of the race. But he was able to slow down just a little bit so I could catch up. We do make a conscious effort to do that. We make sure to talk to each other, at the beginning of laps, typically say, like, how you feeling? Are you gassed? Fourth lap, doesn't matter if you're gassed, we're going, So there's a lot of communication, and it is very intent. It has a lot of intent.
I love everything about it. I love it.
It's interesting that Preston asked about that, because I was not with Preston at the first race, but I was also watching the race. And at Soldier Hollow, as you guys came through every lap, it was almost exactly the exact same time. You both reached down, same hand, same bottle. The way you ate a goo, I was like, is this synchronized swimming / biking? It was incredible, actually. Just the way that you guys did that and worked together. And is it that intentional? Meaning when you're going to drink and eat? I mean, it looked exact.
I mean, drinking together, eating together does give you an advantage. I will say that, even when I'm not tailing him, if I see another varsity guy go for a bottle, I mean, he's slowing down to drink. Why shouldn't I slow down to drink? We're already slowing down. But yeah, eating together, drinking together, we do that intentionally. Occasionally, I'll reach down and I'll just look up and he's doing it, and it's like, I didn't plan that out. But, those things are intentional for sure.
Yeah.
Awesome strategy. Super intriguing. When you think about just that as an example, does that play out in the broader race? I mean, just in terms of how you guys lead up, do you actually talk about that? How are you feeling this week? Is it that intentional where it's like, hey man, I'm not feeling on today, and do you play off of each other that way where one of you can kind of pull the other one up, to kind of mentally get yourself ready for it?
So racing together, as we stated before, is a major part of our success. There's no way that I can have a successful race without being able to be more successful racing with my brother. So we do check up on each other before races, during races, after races. We plan things out. I would say we wouldn't plan anything more than just the extent of, all right, who's going to lead out the first lap? If we're not feeling good, how are we going to cope with that? And we play it by ear, sort of. But one thing is that really stays consistent throughout all of these things is that we stick together. We make an effort to stick together. And we respond off of each other's strengths and weaknesses when racing. Because if we weren't to do that, then we're not racing as efficiently as we could as a unit. And it would be our downfall eventually. So we definitely work together on that.
So we've had two NICA races so far this season, and you two are separated by like a second and a half.
Mm-hmm.
If we were to combine actual times. So do you sprint each other at the line, or do you go into the last lap knowing, all right, you get this race because we're together, I'm going to give this to you, and I'll take next race? Like, is that discussed?
Okay.
And the reason why I'm asking this question is because there were some other riders wondering, I wonder if they're going to alternate wins and losses to share the leader's jersey or whatever. So I'm curious your guys' philosophy.
Okay, so we hear this a lot, there's a lot of conspiracy theories going around.
Yes, let's clear 'em up.
Especially looking at last year's Nike results, where we did have both leader jerseys tied for first place going into state.
Okay.
It was completely unintentional. I'm going to say it again, completely unintentional. And it remains to be so. I think that we work together to the greatest of our abilities when we race until maybe the last hill, the last
corner.
sprint.
Okay.
And then at that point, like, you know,
It's
all
game
bets are off, man. Like we just go after each other because I think that one, it would be unfair if I can't just concede a race to my brother, you know. We race together. It's a major part of our success. But, you know, I want it just as bad as he does, and I'm willing to work for it. And, you know, sprinting against somebody that's so evenly matched with yourself is just unique. It's a unique experience. I love it. You know, I definitely, I don't like concede a win to him. You can kind of tell, like I said before, kind of the psyche in between us, where we can tell if someone's having a bad day. By the third lap or the fourth lap, you're like, all right, yeah, he's burnt out. I think that I probably have this one in the bag. But it's not like, oh, I'm going to concede this race to him to make sure we can kind of reach an end goal. You know, whoever feels better is who wins.
It wouldn't be real racing if we were like, well, he has this one and I have the next one. No,
Yeah.
no.
I appreciate that. And in hearing that, yeah, you guys duke it out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the plan. So ultimately.
When you duke it out, is there afterwards is there a, hey, at dinner at that night, you're like, hey, bro, I killed you today.
I think these guys are
you know what I
way too nice of brothers.
Is there some jabbing going on?
For the most part, we're past that. I think. Yeah, like we've been through it, man. Like we've seen enough races that it's not really like something to hold above another. You know.
Yeah.
I love racing primarily because I get to race with my brother, and it's just fun to go out there and kind of just put yourself to the line, to the tee, to make sure you get every pass, every last bit of effort out on that course. So we're not super competitive off the course and like, oh, I beat you today. How are you gonna feel about that, man? You got anything to say? You know, it's not quite like that. I think that we're pretty moderate, you know. So I think it's
it
good.
seems that way. I mean, it's one of the coolest things of spending some time with you, you know, this afternoon is to see genuine brothers. Like the care is cool. I mean, you guys are good humans, and that's apparent even in your response, you know, the way that you describe that. Does your siblings say anything? Are they like, hey, he got you today? I mean, do they try to, you know, stir the pot a little bit with you?
So I have a little sister and a little brother, you know, in that order. Little sister's older than little brother.
Yeah.
And both of them are very supportive of both of us. And especially my little sister's just an angel. You know, even after I'm like gassed at her race, she'll be like, you did so good. That last sprint looked great. I'm like barely pedaling across the line. And no, it's all constructive. And that's, I think, how it should be. You want to be faster. Why would you break down? Build up, right? Be constructive.
Yeah. Aside from the actual race, when you think about your training and, you know, you guys are riding, you know, it sounds like year round.
Mm-hmm.
Is it nice to have a built-in buddy, you know, a training partner who, you know, one day after school or whatever, it's like, man, I feel like dog. And the other one's like, no, man, come on, we got this.
Man.
I mean, is that helpful in the overall process?
Essential, I think. Burnout is a word that we hear quite a bit as cyclists, maybe a little bit too much, but it's very real. And when you train, I wouldn't say as much as we do, but when you up that training load significantly, it's a risk. And if you have someone that keep you consistent, and it helps get you at the door, and it really helps you like keep the love. It's like, oh, I'm feeling horrible today. Like you said, the other one will be like, no, it's just you. You know, like, come on, you gotta keep pedaling. And it helps for training, just consistency, and it helps you keep the love for the sport. You're having a bad day, someone's gonna pull you through it.
That's cool. Is there some sort of intention that way in terms of, hey, next week, you know, you're going to be the one leading out or choosing the workout and, you know, switching weeks? I mean, do you actually get that detailed in, I guess, sharing, you know, the planning? Training a lot is a lot of planning. I mean, there's just a lot of planning that goes into it. Do you guys switch off those things? Do you keep the same training plan?
So I find that it's pretty intuitive. If one of us is having a bad week, our legs are just not feeling it, then, we'll kind of slide back and let the other brother take the lead, take the headwind.
Mhm.
I find that we don't plan it out explicitly. It's kind of, we just go out and ride, and if one of us is feeling it, we'll take the lead. And it's worked out well for us so far. I have no intention of changing it because I think riding together is just, as buddies is kind of the way to go. I think if you try to micromanage that too much, you kind of lose something, if you know what I mean. So I think that we don't manage it for sure, but it does kind of play out a certain way.
How involved is your parents in the training plan, the day-to-day?
Very. We wouldn't be able to do this without them. And especially as we're looking to progress, always looking to progress, right? But recently, they almost put in more work than I do, hour for hour. They really do care a ton about how we train, our consistency. And it's not so much, we want you to win, it's we want you to succeed. Whatever, if that's a hard race that I placed mid-pack in, but I felt like I did good, that's what matters. And so that's, if me and Gabe were both feeling bummy, parents would be like, come on, guys, it's like 2 hours today. Come on, get out the door. You have a ride today. That training for teams, looking into, bike stuff, it's the whole bit. They're very invested, and it's just because they care. They care a lot about us.
Are they volunteers with the high school team?
Yep.
Through Skyline. So
Yeah.
I don't know if we've mentioned that you guys ride for
We ride
Skyline.
Skyline.
Yeah. So your parents are involved. They've been involved since you were 12 then with the Devo and the high school.
Yes.
Very cool.
And I would like to shout them out. They do a lot of work to try to build the team up for like a long-standing team. So we've organized it to be more friendly towards beginner riders because we want you to be in the sport and for it to be easy because it's kind of a tough learning curve. So, a lot of work has been done, not for us, but for other people to try to make cycling more inclusive, easier to get into.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of work they do, and it's not for them. They do it just because they want to see other people, enjoy the sport.
Very cool.
Do they ride bikes?
Yes, both of them do. Yep.
That's cool. I would imagine that just their background, you kind of describe swimming
Mm-hmm.
and soccer, that they've got the juice in them,
Oh, yeah.
in terms of that competitive nature. So when you think about a household, that way, they're not necessarily, it sounds like, driving you to win or a result, but is just the competitive nature, is that part of the family culture?
So I would say that there's not a huge emphasis on like a competitive nature. My dad will always say he believes in us, we can do whatever we want to when we get out on the bike and race together. But it's not as much about the result for our family. I think there's a saying that our club team Maybird has that is, your greatest effort is the best result. And I find that to be completely true. If I have, an all right race that I win, I will feel no less, or I won't feel nearly as satisfied as I will with a race that I just placed terrible in, but I finished with nothing in the tank. And that's a mindset that my parents have kind of instilled in me where placing great is, it's a nice sidebar, but it's not what you should be focusing on. Being competitive is good. You want to be competitive, but that should never take priority over, you should never burn bridges because you want to be competitive. You never want to just do things that you'll regret later because you're in the heat of the moment. I just don't think that's something that is good. And that's something my parents have instilled in us, and for the better, honestly.
That's awesome. What a great mindset to have. I love what you said there. It's a not win at all costs mentality. Don't burn any bridges. And that, it speaks to something that in our prior segment, we talked a little bit, but the word kindness, came up in our last dialogue, and talk about that a little bit in terms of just family, because it sounds like kindness has been something that, clearly sitting with you, you're kind humans. Is that an emphasis in the household? Is there, do you hear that word come out of your parents' mouths a lot?
It's a household, man. You got to have the family fights, right?
Yeah.
But, it is a good thing to try to be kind to everyone. I wouldn't say, well, I am going to say a lot of our parents' emphasis on competition is based around kindness. You know, hey, that guy, he just raced you. He kicked your butts. Go talk to him. Go congratulate him on his race, right? And that's a big part of it, you know? I have buddies that I haven't talked to in 2 years, 3 years, that will hit me up and they'll be like, hey, there's a race up here in Idaho. Let's go race. You know, and that's just because you reach out to them and it's like, you just got to be kind. It makes life so much better.
Oliver, you in our previous segment, you also said something about you had a list of goals or to-do lists or reminders on your phone that you actively use. Sounds like daily almost.
Daily, yes.
But one of the key things on that list is to smile at people. Tell me why.
Okay, this one is coming straight from my dad, so it definitely wasn't me. But there's this rule called the 5-10 rule. It's been proven to improve morale in the workplace environment, and I'm going to just stretch and say school, life, period, in general. The rule is when you're 10 feet away from someone, smile, and when you're 5 feet away, say hi. That's all. It doesn't have to be anything other than that, and that will dramatically improve, their morale, your morale, and just smiling makes you feel good, and it helps everyone else around you. It's not something that like I said earlier, it's not something that takes a lot of effort, but it can just improve your day, and that's what we're looking for, is to have to live and be happy.
And what do we know? The recipient of that smile and that "how are you doing?" I mean, we know what that feels like too, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you got to think when somebody comes up to you, a best friend, even somebody you don't know that good, and they smile at you and then they say hi. If it's somebody you haven't talked to, you're like, wow, they just, somebody out there is thinking about me right now.
Yeah.
And then knowing that you could be someone that basically gives that to other people, it's like giving a gift.
Yeah, I love that because, so much about what we talk about with Brain Stoke is we all have value. We all have worth, but sometimes we don't recognize that. And I think you guys know high school can be a pretty brutal place, right? So for that to be your mantra and for that to be the number one thing on your list, that you put an effort in to smile at people and ask how their day is, I think it goes back to the way you were raised, no doubt, with your mom and your dad. And I'm just impressed that it's something that you guys implement, as juniors at Skyline High. I think that's sweet.
No, thank you. It's definitely something that didn't come naturally. And, we all have bad days.
Yeah.
Don't let that get to you. But, really, it's been taught to me, and I've been around good people. I've been raised by amazing parents. That is something that, I feel responsible to do. I've been helped by so many people. It's my responsibility to kind of pass that on.
Very cool.
You've spoke passionately about that now, in the last segment and in this one. If you don't mind taking us, back to something you said in our prior segment, you mentioned a friend whose family had a loved one within the family who, passed away by suicide. And there was emotion that was there. I didn't necessarily want to dive into it, with Ashley, because we want to keep it fun and light. But if you don't mind, will you just share your experience, how that's impacted you? Because even as you describe kindness here, your enthusiasm to do that lends me to believe that you've had your own experiences with those not feeling like they, people were kind to them, or that they didn't feel like they were treated well, and maybe I'm wrong on that, but would you mind sharing a little bit more about that?
I've had parents, like you've mentioned, and even close friends, very, very close friends. And you don't typically think, hey, they're really having a rough go at it. Sometimes you don't even know. And that's why smiling is so important. It doesn't, it's not like, oh, they're having a rough go, I'm going to go make their day. Even if you can't tell, and a lot of times you can't. I couldn't, certainly. I had no idea. It is important to keep that in the back of your mind always. Really, truly, I've been shocked by how many people are impacted by mental health and mental health issues. It's something that we don't typically think about all the time, or at least I didn't. It's, and it's something that it doesn't take much effort to help other people in a passive way, and it means so, so much to them. So, and then reach out. If you need help, reach out. There's no shame in that.
Cool. Is that something that between the two of you, speaking of mental health, do you find that you're each other's best source of, keeping each other mentally well, sharing? I mean, are you each other's therapist?
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's good to have someone in your life that you can relate to on such a close level. It works well for us because we're twins and we're always around each other. Although, on a light note, it is a double-edged sword. He knows everything that bugs me, like to the T. So it goes both ways for us. But I think that having a constant companion has been just a huge blessing to me in my life. Because, like you said, yes, we talk a lot to each other about just, our life situation, how we're feeling, just things in general. And that's something that has just been great for me. And I'm sure it's been great for him. And I'd encourage anybody, if they have an issue or a mental health problem, to find a good friend, a close friend to help you through that. Because I know for sure that having somebody that you can talk to consistently that understands is just a huge help.
Do you guys? Sorry, Tom.
That's okay. I was just going to say, in a certain way, it's built in for you.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And so, I mean, we have twins and we've, a business partner who's a twin. And it's interesting when he describes that relationship with his twin, it's fascinating how he literally described it as almost a superpower of his, because his whole life he's had someone that he's learned compassion with. It's built in that relationship. And so many people, grow up their whole lives and they don't necessarily learn to have compassion for another. They're not close that way. It takes a long time, but for someone who's a twin, literally day one, right?
Yes.
I mean, whoever's in tears, the other one is providing the love and the support. And so you learn that over time. Is that a superpower in your relationship?
Oh, yeah. And I love what you said is it takes a long time, but you can learn it. And that's something where it's like a lot of the times I think personally, when I see someone that's just chipper happy all the time, definitely some people are born with that, but you can learn it. And so if you want to try to, become a happier person, to spread that, that joy, the love that you see some people, are very passionate about, it's something that you can do. It's not one and done. I'm kind of a dour person. It takes effort, it takes time, but you can do it. And it's something that is great for me and him to share. When he's feeling down, sometimes I'll be like, "Hey, man, you need to step it up. You're not living in a way that you would look back at yourself and be like, oh, that was a great time in my life." And it's good to have someone to like check that. But it's definitely something that it takes effort, but you can learn it. And
Do you guys share a bedroom?
oh, we used to.
You
for
used to.
so long.
We used to.
Not anymore.
It's
Gabe, let's hear it, buddy.
So we have since remodeled, and now we share separate rooms. But we used to have a bunk bed that we would sleep in, and there was plenty of things that went along there. But it did teach us from a young age that you got to keep on good terms with each other, because you're sleeping right next to each other every night, every week. So you gotta be good to each other.
Have you guys thought about what life will look like after you graduate high school and you get pulled different directions?
I've thought about this a lot.
Certainly.
For some reason, but
What are your thoughts on it?
it's just so hard to say, because there's a lot of things in life that change after high school. You lose certain friends. The friends you do keep go off in different directions, whether they marry, go on to study in college, whatever it is. And I think it probably won't be any different for us, although we will definitely stay together in a sense. I don't think as twins we can just intrinsically separate because we no longer live under the same roof.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know where life is going to pull either of us. That's not something I have any control over right now. But I think that I would like to make an active, effort to stay connected throughout my life with my brother. I think that's good.
Oliver, thoughts?
There's something my dad said that is popping up to my mind. He says that the only person he wants to be closer to me than my brother is my wife. I think that's perfect.
Yeah.
I think I'm definitely going to make an effort after high school. When we do end up going separate ways, that's just how it works. I'm not going to live in the house with him forever, you know, to be connected. Because like you said earlier, it really is a superpower. It's something that I think is well worth the effort and the time to stay connected and stay on good terms.
You use the word connected again, and I want to just ask you this, maybe freestyle for a second, but it seems like that teens today are hungering for that, right? They're hungering for connection. You guys have it built in, your twins. What would you say is, among your peers, in high school, teenagers, what would you say is the reason why they hunger so much for connection, or that is missing?
So I hate to be cliche, but we've seen a huge rise in social media and there's a whole situation about having friends that are kind of friends, but not really. I think that having a true connection with somebody is increasingly rare for whatever reason that may be. And maybe the rarity of that is why so many people seek after that sort of connection. I've been blessed, again, with a twin brother. I also have very good friends that I've been close to for essentially my whole life. And that's something that I seek to uphold because I understand the value of that. And if some people don't have that, I can see how that could affect them and how they could want that. Because having close friends it's a huge thing in my life. It's really impacted the way I live my life, the way I choose to spend my time, and it's kept me out of a lot of bad habits. I think that my friends uphold a high standard, and that's helped me stay kind of on track to where I need to be in my life. And I think that it's just a great thing to have in your life, to have a good friend that'll keep you where you need to be with morals and values, which is maybe the reason why so many people my age look for that, is because it can kind of help check them and keep them in track to where they need to be. Having somebody to kind of bounce back off of when they need to. I know that me and my brother do that plenty, where either one of us is in a situation where we need each other's support and help, and they're there and they can help us. And I think that's just crucial for everyone to have in their lives.
Even hearing the two of you, like you just described there, but Oliver earlier was talking about, when you're having a downer day, you're like, come on, man, and what's interesting is you're describing not letting each other off the hook.
Responsibility, for
yeah,
sure.
some accountability, right? And living better. And that it's fascinating to kind of hear you describe that, because so oftentimes friends are such a huge factor for good or bad, right? They can help you, do the right things and to be motivated and achieve goals, or to constantly be saying, who cares? Who cares about achieving anything, or that's a try hard, or, whatever that is. And I think that's cool that you recognize in each other and in friends that a happy life is in accountability and seeking to do things and achieve things, whether that's winning bike races or not, but just seeking after things that, are good.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe shift gears a little bit. I'm going to go back, if you don't mind, because just hearing you guys describe some of your thought processes and the way that you treat each other. Go back to the bike.
Back to the bike.
Back to the bike. So you're in the toughest race of your lives. You're in the pain cave. Where was that at? And what were the emotions going on at that tough race and in that moment?
So I might have a different tough race than Oliver. I think the hardest race I've ever been in, this is kind of interesting. It was a totally random NICA race, or an I-Cup race that I did last summer. I think it was my first varsity race that I've ever raced when I was 15 last year. It was just brutal, man. Like, these kids, these 18-year-olds that I'm racing against are just killing me. I'm barely on the back end of the peloton of kids that are just pushing me. And man, I was in the pain cave, I can tell you. But I think one thing that has consistently kept me up when those situations arise is the fact that I'm racing with my brother. And I can't really see him pull away and be like, I gotta be on his tire, man. You know, like I know if he can do it, there's more than likely a chance that I can do it as well. And I can't let myself off the hook that easily. So that's one thing that I kind of draw upon when I'm in those really tough race situations, is that I got his tire to chase. And if I don't, I got to hold myself to that. So that's my motivation behind doing what I do in tough races.
Cool.
I can't say I can think of a single race in particular that's been like so hard for me, and it just, you know, it looks like he's doing all right. I'm sure there is, but definitely intervals recently. I've been a little bit more on the tired side for a couple of reasons, and he performs better. You know, just same wattage, and then we'll do like typically our last set, our last effort. We'll just go like, here's our effort, and then you just Hail Mary, go as hard as you can until you just like give out, basically.
Yeah.
That is a pain cave and a half. It is horrible in the moment, for sure. And what gets you through that is thinking like it's really comforting knowing that we are basically the same athlete. And so if I'm having a really rough go at it, it's like, well, he seems to be fine. Well, I can get there, and I know I can. And it's just, I need to get out of my head, and I need to start going a little bit faster. You know, it's great to get rid of the excuses. Having excuses is something that I'm great at, and having like an easy way to be like, nope, that's dumb. Get out of your head. You can do this. Go a little bit harder. It's just like the greatest outlet, you know, knowing that I can just chase his tire. If I can't feel, oh, I had a bad week, I hit legs too hard on Monday. No, that's not what it is. Go harder.
What a mindset. You know, I think that there's so much benefit that's built into that. You know, I mean, it's cool. It's really cool. When you think in those moments, and I know that you guys kind of rely on each other, you know, to get through those pain cave moments, you know, just grab a wheel, you know, if he can do it, I can do it type of a thing. Is there any emotion that you feel internally in those moments that you draw on? You know, it could be anger, it could be whatever. Or is it truly just that? Is it, hey, if he can go, I can go? I mean, is it kind of a comparison between the two of you, or is there other emotions that are, you know, inside you? We often ask, you know, those that we meet with, is there one specific emotion that you draw on in those pain cave moments? You know, when I was young, it was 2 moments in my life where I experienced legit shame and embarrassment. And those are strong emotions, right? Potentially the strongest. And I've used those over the years. And as time has gone on, I've gotten older. In races, when it gets tough, I tend to now draw on love and gratitude. Whereas before it was anger and shame and, you know, these other types of things. When you think about, you know, those emotions that you're experiencing in that moment, maybe think back. Do you draw on any one specifically?
Go for a minute.
So I can't think of maybe a specific time where I draw an emotion from, but I do draw an emotion when times get rough, when I'm racing. The majority of kind of my mental toughening in racing is just following his wheel, and that's mostly what it is. But when I need that extra little push, a little tip from a book I read called How Bad Do You Want It states that the act of bracing yourself for a super hard effort is just, it's great for you. It's kind of where the term bracing yourself comes from, is that if you're preparing yourself and you're not trying to deny or kind of suppress the fact that it's going to hurt, but you're like, this is going to be the hardest thing I've ever done, you know? And you're really going to have to push through it. There's no like maybes or side swipes. You're just going to have to do it. And bracing yourself for that moment, that really helps me in those times. And that's something you do beforehand. I think that the emotion that I specifically pull on when I'm racing in the moment is usually just being fed up with losing to my brother. Because, okay, the reality of the situation is there's only one first place and there's 2 of us. And you can't win them all. It's just not possible. And if it was, things would not be the way that they are now. So I think that I kind of just pull off of being fed up with losing. Sometimes I'll be on a losing streak to him, like comparatively. It's not like first and second place or anything, but it's like comparatively he's performed better. That's actually what's happened this season. I have won 2 races against my brother, and he's won every other one.
Fed up, by the way.
He has won every other one. So I draw on that a little bit. I'm kind of fed up with losing to him and giving out before him. Or maybe just feeling like, man, I've done enough, I'll just let him take this race. And just being like, no, I can't let that happen. We got to push to the very end and just get through it because I cannot take another loss. So that's what I draw on in the toughest of times. But I don't resort to it often because there's no way that's a good mindset to have constantly. But it does help in the times that it's required to.
Yeah.
This is interesting kind of hearing you go through that because I feel the same way. We work together, we do all that, but you can definitely tell it's like, I want to win this one. I would say when I need to draw on something, more often than not, it's not so much a sense of anger, of shame. It's more a sense of like almost pride and confidence. When I'm on the starting line, I think back and I get these emotions in my head so I can have them while I race. It's like I have trained countless hours this season. I've had people that have put in a lot of effort and a lot of work for me to be here right now, and it's not so much they're expecting me to go out here and get this thing, but it's like they have put in the effort, they've put in the work, so have I. I can be confident in myself and in my capabilities to do this thing. Seriously, those emotions were very, very strong at some of my more important races. It's like I have trained all year to get to this one spot. I've had a lot of help. I've had a lot of support. It's on me now. I'm prepared. I'm ready. And that gives you a sort of confidence that you really don't have showing up to a race when you're not prepared. There's totally different feelings.
Yeah, it's interesting that you keyed into that. I want you guys to talk about this. What's the difference between the strategy of hope, I hope, versus the strategy of, I got this, because of all the work, the hours, right? The sacrifice, the hard things. Talk through that, because oftentimes I think that student athletes, your peers, when they go to races, their mindset is, I hope that someone else crashes or whatever today so that my result is better. And just the difference in those mindsets.
I think this applies not only for biking, but for, I hope, a lot of aspects in high school life, tests and everything else like that. You got to recognize it takes effort, it takes time, it takes planning to get to that stage where you can confidently hope. And you'll know when you get there, because it's a feeling of like, I know. It's the difference between I think I hope this happens, I hope I have enough fitness, and I know. It feels like you're settled into the fact that you are willing to put in the effort in the moment, and then you have that basis of like, I've already done all of this before. And then there's the I hope mindset, which I have had a couple races this season. I hope I can get this result. I hope I can go. I hope I'm ready. And then that compared to the I know, the reward for having the I know mindset, not even for placements, just the confidence that it gives you, is something that is well worth chasing.
In those moments where you have known, do you say it to yourself? Meaning when you're on the bike, and are you self-coaching? Or, in our lives as coaches, we would teach the kids from a young age, hey, when you're out there on your bike, you're alone. There's no coach.
There's no coach.
When you come past, the 8th state, yeah, they'll be there, but you have to be willing to be positive self-coached out there. So do you actually say that, either of you, in a race? I know I got this. I got this. I mean, what is that self-talk going on?
I would say I definitely self-coach on the bike. It's something that I think personally is essential to kind of work through your head and make sure you have what you want to do in line. My strategy of self-coaching in a tough race kind of goes as follows. I kind of work my way through all the things I want to accomplish, and then I work my way through how I'm feeling, and how to get over those feelings and being like, oh, I'm feeling tired today, man. Maybe my legs just aren't in it. This isn't my race to win, you know? And then you got to kind of back it up with that secondary thought and being like, yeah, that's great, whatever. You just got to do your best. Because I think that the regret of not doing your best and tapping out early is just the worst. And if you know that going into the race, that can help you push aside the pain and the struggle of the moment and make sure that you don't have those lasting regrets afterwards. And that's what I find with I Hope races that I don't really enjoy. I've had my fair share of I Hope races where I pull up in the beginning of the season, an early season race, you know, just to tune up, whatever it is. And I know full well I am not prepared. I'm not ready to go out and I don't feel confident in my skills to perform to my fullest extent. And it really kind of does drag on you a little bit. I think putting in the effort over the season to set yourself up to do as good as possibly can, that's just something that will help you with when you're out on the bike and you're coaching yourself in your mind. You'll know that you have everything that you need to succeed with you and that you just got to do it. So I think that when I personal coach, that's what I do is I set myself up for success throughout the season. And then when I get there, I just tell myself I have everything I need. I just got to do it.
Oliver is, quote, I know earned. Do you have to earn that?
It is earned. And it's not earned in a day. It's not earned in a week. It's not earned in a month. It's earned over consistent effort. It takes planning. It takes work. But the confidence that you gain knowing that you can do something, not even biking. Sometimes it's, I know I can pass this test. You know, having that makes the work worth it. And I think it's something that everybody needs to experience.
I'd like to add on that. Getting to that I know stage is not just about you. There are so many people that you need to, you need the support from, including parents, coaches, you know, your fellow peers, your competitors even, that will push you to get to that I know stage. As great as it would be to get to that I know stage by yourself, you just can't do it. You need help and support. I've found that to be true in our lives. It's most notably just between us two, where we push each other to do better throughout the whole season, but also my parents, my coaches, those who train me and those who support me and push me to do my best. I couldn't reach that I know stage without all of their continual support.
I love your perspectives. I think you guys are so mature in your mental space, your head space when it comes to races, and really just in life. I think it's really remarkable. I'm impressed, guys.
Thank you.
You guys shared something, and Oliver, it came from you initially earlier, where you talked about how you don't race for the result.
Mm-hmm.
Share with us a little bit again about that mantra, and I think it's more of a Maybird mantra that you guys have embraced, but
Certainly.
just talk a little bit about that if you would.
I think generally speaking, racing for the result is a tinge unhealthy. So just getting that out of the door, it's also far, far more rewarding to know that your worth as a cyclist is not tied to a number.
Thank you.
How much effort you can put out on the bike. It's your personal best, TBY, the best you, right? That is, you know, a Maybird slogan, right?
Okay.
But I think it really is true. You get a lot more, out of the sport knowing that it is the best you. There's only ever going to be one Nino Schroeder. There's only ever going to be one Lance Armstrong. And I've accepted it's not going to be me. I need to be able to put out that effort for me, not for a number.
It's interesting. Earlier, Ashley was here, and Ashley described that her greatest, I guess, downfall of a race, or the worst type of race that she described, is a race of regret. And when you set yourself up for a result and you don't get it, then the end result is always regret. Right? Which is going to put you into this negative kind of headspace and cycle. When you guys look at the rest of the season, when you think about the rest of, what you'd like to accomplish this season, what are you setting yourselves up for? Like what you're winning races. You guys are racing at an extremely high level. So if it's not result, what is it? What's the best outcome for the Gibbons this year?
So I think personally, when I go out and race, I want to put out the maximum effort I possibly can. And when I cross that finish line, I want to know that there's not going to be a voice in the back of my head saying, you could have done more. And so when I go out and race, that's what I chase after, is to make sure that I got nothing left in the tank, that I go out and I make sure that when I cross that finish line, I won't be thinking about it that night and been like, oh man, I wish I would have gone harder. Because that's just not something that I want to do. I've had races where that's happened and it's stuck with me, and that's not what I want. I think looking at the rest of the season, whatever happens, as long as I go out and I race to my fullest potential and I have a clean race, I am happy with whatever placement that may put me in. Whether it's behind my brother, behind a whole sweep of varsity kids, I could not care less. As long as I go out there and I feel satisfied and happy with the results I have come up with using my own effort, then I'm happy.
My personal goal for this season, not for us both, but I want to have a confident I know race for state champs this year. I had one last year and that stuck with me. It's been like almost a pivotal moment in my life. I want to have that race again. The confidence of I know I can go out and put out this effort. That's what I want. And then again, I want to be able to know that both of us together working will leave everything out there. Granted that is not going to be 1-2 this coming state. There's so many kids out there that are way faster than us. I would be more than happy if me and him came across that finish line, knowing that we had worked together and put every last watt down on that race course.
Love it. Can't wait to watch it.
Yeah, that's going to be great.
It's going to be cool.
It will be fun.
Picture a group of tons of riders, a stadium full of kids younger than you. And the stadium is full of kids who are struggling with one of two things. Most of them are in the stadium and they're thinking to themselves, I hope. They're I hopers. I hope that I did enough. I rode my bike 5 times this calendar year, and I'm expecting to be on the podium at varsity, right? The I hope, mindset. The other mindset is kids who are nervous to risk emptying the tank because they'll blow up, right?
Mm-hmm.
They need to ride 3 laps and race 3 laps, and they're going to blow up at 2, and then they have to soft pedal to the finish, right? And so there's constantly this mindset, I think, that goes on of, I'm not going to risk going too hard because then I'll blow up. But then there's also so many kids who are like, I hope I did enough, right? And your mindsets are significantly different, but it took some time to get there. So what advice would you give to the I hope and those who are afraid? Hey, I'm not going to risk going too hard because if I risk going too hard and I blow up, I'm disappointed, right? And so there's this whole thing of like regret. I hope I'm going to have a regret. And then there's this, I went as hard as I could go. I went all in. I risked going too hard and I didn't get the result I wanted. And it was like,
It still ends in disappointment. Yeah, for the rider typically.
I think that for those people that go out too hard and they burn up before the end of the race, that's just racing. I think race strategy does not come intrinsically. You need to have a few bad races before you figure it out. So for those I hope people, just train enough and get the support that you need through those that are around you that love you, and get to that place where you can confidently say, I know, or get as close as you possibly can. And then go out and race hard. And if you end up blowing up like the stadium of other kids, then at least you'll know and you can make better decisions in the future, because no one's going to ace their first race. No one's going to pull away with a podium finish just going out having no idea what they need to do. Race strategy comes with time. So for those people that are blowing up too early and they can't quite get to that finish line before being just totally gassed. That just comes with time. I think it's better to race like that and to know that everything's out on the course than to come in and be like, oh, I could do another lap. And then eventually you'll get to the point where you can kind of self-diagnose and self-pace yourself. I've had it a little bit easier because I run with a power meter and a heart rate monitor and my brother, which really helps. But I think that it just comes with time. That's not something you can expect of yourself your first race in the season. For those I hope people, I think that learning the value of hard work will be a phenomenal game changer in your life. I'm not saying that they aren't putting in hard work in other facets of their lives, but I've noticed me personally in cycling, it has really changed my life to dedicate myself to a goal and to work towards that every day. And I think that's something that everyone in that I Hope Stadium can have too. It's not something that's gate-kept. And I think that would be my advice, is that you can put in the work. It's completely possible for you to do that. And I think that once you do that, you'll be in a world of a better place if you really want to focus on cycling and if that's something you really want to do.
Two things I think that we can pull out of their actions. So that was principles, actions for people that blow up. What me and Gabe did that worked wonders was we took one season, I think it was 2 seasons ago, maybe it was last season, where we basically just went and raced as much as we possibly could. All of the I-Cups, all the Nike races, a couple here and there, just scattered throughout. And, I mean, it will help you race, you know? You're going to have a couple, like he said, you're going to have a couple bad races, but the good thing is you're going to have a couple, we all do, and then you're going to move on. And, you know, you can talk to people that have had those bad races before and be like, what did you do? You know, because it's going to be a little bit more of an extensive conversation than just this. You know, what did you do on this course? What should I do? So get out, race a ton. And then for the people out there so that was the blowing up, is race a ton. And for the I-Hopers, just you need to get out there and train with the intention of having an I know race. Wanting to have an I know race and having like one race in mind, I think is super helpful, because you can train up, be like, I'm going out today. I really don't want to, but I'm doing it because I want to have a good race at state this year. And I think that'll help you pull through those spots where you really don't want to train, and a lot of the time, sometimes it's I don't have time to train, and that's just life. Life is hard sometimes.
Totally. Great advice. Excellent feedback. Freestyle. Finish it off in any way, shape, or form you like.
And also, while you're at it, answer this question. During a race, I want my brother or my power meter. You can only have one.
Oh my.
Brother right
Oh,
away.
okay.
I'm saying brother.
A brother is a power meter, except for it's all natural, you know? And it's a drafting
Organic
buddy.
version.
Yeah, there's no question in
Okay,
my mind.
that's what I figured, but I
Yeah.
just wanted to double check.
Like, power meters are great, but a power meter will only take you so far, you know? And a power meter won't shout at you from behind, hurry up.
Go faster.
It'll only show you the numbers. So I've only raced with a power meter for one season, and I've raced with my brother for pretty much
6.
every last race I've ever been in.
Yeah.
So there's no question in my mind. I'll take my brother any day of the week.
Okay, freestyle. Back to the final
freestyle.
final thought. Share anything that you want someone to hear, or a thank you. Maybe there's a teacher, a parent, or somebody you just want to shout out. Any thoughts?
I think cycling has been a massive part of my life, period, right? It takes up a big portion of my time. It takes up it's basically made me who I am. And my love for cycling has come from people who have had a love for cycling. So that's my coaches, my parents encouraging me and supporting me financially, obviously, right? And in other ways, emotionally, and getting me through all those hard days. Really, I could not be here without everyone. And I can't go through the list. It's too long. But just thank you to everyone that is out there and has helped me. My success is not my own. It is definitely a large part for my brother, a large part to my parents, my coaches, even like people that don't think they would. I coached a group of kids this year, And I had one of them come up to me in a race, and they're like, "You're my coach, go, 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 go." It's like everything and everyone that's helped me love this sport has helped me get where I am. And just thank you. You know, if you're out there on a bike and you're smiling, you're helping me love the sport.
Awesome. Sweet.
I really got to issue the thank you. I'll be a little more concise than Oliver, but my success is not my own. I don't think that I would have sticked with the sport or been able to accomplish the sport with as much relative success as I have without that huge support group behind me. You know, for every podium finish that me and my brother have, there is 50 to 100 people standing behind in my shadow that have pushed me up to that podium. It is not me. It is the result of everybody else that have put work in and then had faith in what I can do on the bike. And it's just a huge part of my life. And that's something that I hope to do as well as I grow up, is to become that person that's pushing from behind and making sure that somebody can succeed to their maximum effort. And I hope that's something that I can do for the rest of my life in cycling, in my sport, in my ecclesiastical duties, whatever it may be. That's what I hope to do. But again, just thank you to everybody that has got me to where I am. It is a huge blessing to me in my life.
Right on.
I'm a huge fan of the Gibbons.
Totally.
I mean, I watching you guys race is inspiring, but just listening to you as humans is so cool. You're awesome people. Thank you for being here.
Ride strong.
Thank you.
Be kind.
Ride strong, be kind.
Heck yeah.
You've had your daily dose.